Good morning. The June 21st meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. In the interest of promoting the order and efficiencies of these hearings, persons who are disruptive to the hearing will be asked to leave the hearing room immediately. Meetings of the Board of Estimates are open to the public for the duration of the meeting. The hearing room must be vacated at the conclusion of the meeting. Failure to comply may result in a charge of trespassing. Madam Deputy Controller, are there any corrections, additions, or deferrals on the agenda?
Good morning. For today's meeting, the board did not receive any protests. There's one item that's being deferred, and that's pages 8 to 9, item number 2 for 1 week. I have the following abstentions to note. For the Honorable Mayor Pugh, there are no abstentions. For the Honorable President Young, there are no abstentions. For the Honorable Comptroller Pratt, she abstained on page 77, item number 6.
I could have said that back there.
Remaining on the non-routine agenda is page 31. Mr. President, members of the board, that is the deferral for today's meeting, the abstention that have been reported, as well as the one item on the non-routine agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. I will direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from our office dated June the 19th, 2017, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any correction and addition that have been noted by the Deputy Controller. I will entertain a motion to approve all of the items contained on the routine agenda.
I move the approval of the items on the routine agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carried. The agenda has been adopted. The first item on the non-routine agenda can be found on page 31, Department of Audits, Audits Report and Related Audit Digest. Will the parties please come forward?
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. I'm Bob McCarty, City Auditor. This single audit report is the 34th annual edition of it. It excludes the Baltimore City Public School System and the Ena Pratt Free Library, which are subject to separate audits as required by state law. The audit report includes the previously issued comprehensive annual financial report, the CAFR, and the related report on compliance and internal control over financial reporting. The Department of Audits and KPMG issued the CAFR portion of the report jointly, which includes a separate report that addresses the city's compliance with certain laws and regulations and the internal control over financial reporting relating to the financial statements. The city had two significant deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting for fiscal year 15, and both are considered material weaknesses. The first is a lack of control over financial statement preparation. During fiscal year 15, we noted several matters that highlighted the need for improved internal controls over financial reporting relating to the preparation, review, and posting of transactions to the grant funds, journal entries, accounts payables, and pensions. We noted several instances where supervisory reviews were not performed at a level that would detect and correct material misstatements. We identified the following weaknesses in this finding. The generation of transaction detail underlying financial statement balances. During our audit, we requested...
Did I turn the lights on?
Okay.
Somebody leaning on the light switch.
Okay.
There we go.
We're gonna put a sign up. Don't lean on the lights.
Okay, to continue, during our audit, we requested certain transaction detail to select our sample items for audit. While the city was ultimately able to provide this information, the generation of such information was difficult to obtain and did not always agree to the related financial statement balances without material adjustments. We also noted that this information did not undergo appropriate supervisory review to ensure its accuracy and completeness prior to the submission for audit. Lack of control over journal entries. The city's financial reporting process is heavily reliant on the recording of various manual adjustments. During a review of the manual journal entries recorded in the city's general ledger system, which is City Dynamics, we noted that although the reviewer would review the batch of entries to ensure that the entry balances did not include inactive accounts, they did not obtain supporting documentation to ensure that the entry is warranted and that the amount of the entry agrees to the supporting details. Lack of review over the pension schedule. Management's review over the pension schedule did not detect certain errors in the net pension liability and related accounts. Management's initial review of the pension schedule did not detect that a change in proportion was not calculated to allocate ERS pension amounts to the city's enterprise and governmental activities. In addition, after we brought the omission of this to the city's attention, the city's calculation included amounts related to the Baltimore City Public School System, even though the Baltimore City Public School System was not included in the underlying payroll data used to determine the allocation base. As a result, the city's pooled cash, net pension liability, deferred outflows, deferred inflows, other pension costs, and net position were initially misstated for both the enterprise funds and governmental activities. In addition, a material pension liability attributable to the Baltimore City Public School System employees that participate in the ERS was not reported in their financial statements. The city believes the net...
Excuse me,
I'm sorry.
you said the school system did not report something to ERS?
No.
Oh.
Read it again.
I will. In addition, a material pension liability that was related to the Baltimore City Public School System employees that participate in the ERS was not reported in the Baltimore City Public School System's financial statements. Is that...
That's what I was, that was, yeah, and they're not reporting it.
They didn't report.
They did not
The school system, that's what I was saying.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
all right, so we have to get on them.
Okay,
Listen to them.
the city believes the net pension liability attributed to the Baltimore City School System employees of $100 million, that's approximate, should be recorded by Baltimore City Public School System and not the city, because the Baltimore City Public School System was responsible for making employer contributions attributable to their employees. Based on the information available and the size of unrecorded liability by the Baltimore City Public School System, the city decided not to include the Baltimore City Public School System in its financial statements. Next is the lack of review over accruals. Management did not have adequate controls in place to identify invoices that should be accrued at year end, which resulted in an understatement of accounts payable and expense of $2.5 million in the city's financial statements and approximately $99,000 in the city's stormwater utility fund. Lack of review over capitalized assets. Management did not have sufficient controls in place to ensure that capitalized transactions were properly being reviewed to prevent and correct errors. Specifically, we noted that management approved transactions to be capitalized for motor vehicles in the water and wastewater utility funds in the amount of $2.9 million and $1.8 million respectively, which should have been expense. Management subsequently corrected the errors once brought to their attention. Lack of review between the revenue billing system and the general ledger. During our testing, we noted there were systemic errors and limitations still exist related to the city's water billing system. Additionally, management does not have proper controls in place to reconcile the revenue per the water billing system to the general ledgers on a periodic basis to ensure that revenue is complete and accurate. As a result, we noted an unrecorded difference in the wastewater and water utility funds in the amount of $1.7 million and $1.9 million respectively. Lack of review over proper coding of expenses. Management did not have adequate controls in place to ensure that accounts were being properly reviewed and assigned to the appropriate financial statement line items. During our testing, we noted management did not adequately review the general ledger transaction to note if the account was properly stated. All 6,000 accounts are set to record salaries and wages in the general ledger, when in reality only the 6,100 accounts should be classified as salaries and wages. The others should be other personnel costs. As a result, the city misclassified $5 million, $5.7 million, and $2.1 million of salaries and wages to other personnel costs in the water, wastewater, and stormwater utility funds, respectively. Management corrected this error once brought to their attention. We recommend that management refine the process used to complete its draft citywide financial statements and the related notes, all significant adjustments, conversion from cash to accrual adjustments, and necessary account reconciliations. We further recommend that these items be timely prepared and reviewed by management. In their response, the Department of Finance stated that it generally agrees with the findings and recommendations, that the material pension liability that was left off the Baltimore City Public School System financial statements was not the city's responsibility to change, and it was the first year of a very complicated pension GASB. The Department of Finance stated that it continues to strive to improve business processes that will strengthen internal control and make reporting more accurate and less cumbersome, and it is implementing an upgrade to accounts payable to allow a review process for accounts payable and journal entries. The second finding is a lack of controls over accounting for the grants fund. During our audit procedures over the grants revenue fund, we identified certain errors in the city's grant accrual calculation related to aged grant accounts receivable and unearned revenue balances that were initially not reserved by management, but upon further investigation were assessed to be uncollectible or invalid. As a result, management adjusted the due from other governments, unearned revenue, and unavailable revenue balances in the grant fund by $65 million, $9.5 million, and $55.5 million respectively. In addition, we noted an uncorrected misstatement of $3.1 million related to unreserved grant account receivable balances that did not have subsequent cash receipts within 90 days of the fiscal year end and did not have any fiscal year 2015 expenditures. We also identified several instances in which the city improperly included transactions related to other income or fees for services that were unrelated to grants. These transactions resulted in an error in the city's calculation of due from governments, unearned revenue, and unavailable revenue in the amounts of $6 million, $1.5 million, and $4.5 million respectively. Management subsequently reviewed these balances from their grants analysis and adjusted their balances. Lastly, the city reported $14 million of unearned revenue in its grant revenue. However, the city was unable to provide sufficient documentation to support this balance. We recommend that the city implement a process for agency personnel responsibility for administering grants to review the status of each grant and to make adjusting entries in the general ledger to remove the effect of invalid grants receivable and unearned revenue balances, and to provide confirmation to the Department of Finance that all such balances are valid. I recommend the city continue to clean up its cleanup efforts to remove aged grants from its general ledger and improve the level of precision of the review of coding new grants in the general ledger during the initial setup process to ensure the grant and non-grant related receipts are appropriately classified as such. The Department of Finance stated in its response that it has established grant organizations within the Department of Finance. The organization is in the process of having policies approved by the Board of Estimates so that they can better work with the departments in the city that have grant awards. This organization has also taken over the day-to-day responsibilities to review the proposed entries for attachment and to ascertain the entry is proper. And that concludes the CAFRA portion. Does Mr. Raymond want to speak before I go to the single audit?
Thank you. Mr. Raymond.
Good morning, Mr. President, Madam Pugh, Mayor Pugh, members of the Board of Estimates. The Department of Finance generally concurs with the first finding. The specific note regarding Baltimore City Public Schools is that the pension liability is clearly the responsibility of the school system and not the city government. As it relates to the second finding, the Department of Finance has implemented a grants management unit to assist all agencies citywide in the implementation and closeout of grants, including review of journal entries, overall management, cash flow, et cetera. And, excuse me, and that is already been put into place, so that is ongoing. We went to the Board of Estimates several meetings ago for the approval of the administrative policies that were upgraded to govern all transactions related to federal grants. And finally, as it relates to the first finding, one of the things that we'll be doing is implementing a new accounting system that should help us achieve better precision with the transactions that are being recorded. And that will be during fiscal 18.
Okay. Since the Board of Estimate approved the changes to the administrative manual with the grants administration process, do those charges address your concerns?
When implemented, yes, they would address these concerns, yes.
Okay. Have the city taken any other steps as it relates to that?
Well, that unit has already closed out over 1,600 inactive accounts. We're working with the agencies that all journal entries will be reviewed and approved by the grants management unit. So yes, this is already underway.
Okay. With the water department, how do funds get into the water department's account and separate from the general fund?
Well, because the water fund and the wastewater fund are separate enterprise funds, they have separate account numbers. So every water account has a separate, unique account number that's specific for the water fund.
So if I pay my, see, I'm trying to understand something. If I pay my property tax, I know that goes into, go into one separate fund. If I pay my water bill, does that water bill actually directly go into the water fund, or does it sit in the general fund and be divvied out?
It does not sit in the general fund. It goes directly into the water fund account based on that individual or commercial entity's account number.
So if I call the Director of Public Works into a hearing and ask him how much money do he have as it relates to water bills being paid, he could tell me how much he has?
Yes.
Okay,
And the Director of Finance would provide that information. It's in the city's accounting records.
okay, all right, thank you. Madam Controller,
Yeah, come
you
on.
have a question?
Yeah, I will after
Me first?
You go ahead.
Okay. On finding one, lack of controls over financial statement preparation, I heard that you said you have a new accounting system because this finding has been going on since fiscal 2010. So the accounting system has been installed and staff has been trained and they're using?
No, ma'am. The new accounting system will begin to be installed in fiscal 18. So we're still using City Dynamics. We're looking at an upgrade to City Dynamics that should alleviate a lot of these issues. A lot of these issues are caused by the manual processes with the current accounting system. So upgrading the current accounting system will help with automation and should alleviate a number of these problems.
And so when will it be upgraded?
Starting in fiscal 18.
So July 1?
Well, July 1 is the start of the fiscal year, but probably like the third quarter, January.
So it could be a continued finding because then 3/4 of the year,
Yes.
it will be, you're saying.
Yeah, and hopefully the findings will not be as significant in the future because we will be looking at what we can do to strengthen the present manual processes while we're
Upgrade.
planning for the upgrade.
Okay, so could you report back to the board in January of exactly where you are with that implementation?
Yes, ma'am.
And on finding two, lack of controls over accounting for grants fund, you've already hired the employees for this section?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so could you also report back in 6 months
Yep.
where they are with the grant section? And
Be
hopefully we
happy
won't
to.
have these findings.
Madam Mayor?
So this is the audit for 2015, am I correct?
Yes, so there's a single audit portion to cover, but yes, that's the capital side.
So 2016 will find the same issues, am I correct?
They should.
We will,
For the most,
some of the
Yes.
same issues, because the issue that you just asked about, Madam Controller, we'll still see it in 2017 audit too, am I correct?
Possibly.
Okay, that's a problem. And it's one that we really need to pay very close attention to, because I don't want to be here, as I've said before, I'm not going to sit here and defend agencies that aren't correcting action. I think you pointed out this has been occurring since when?
Fiscal
2010.
Fiscal
2010. And I think some of the folks we're talking to have been here since 2000. You've been here since when?
Oh, 2008.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, the audit has been noted.
excuse me, I still have the single audit
Oh, you
portion.
have another part?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just have another
Oh, so we started.
page and a
okay.
half, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay, the balance of the single audit report is issued by the Department of Audits and represents mandated coverage of federal financial assistance. This report includes the supplementary schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which total $204.7 million. We audited 15 major programs for fiscal year 15, which totaled $169.5 million. In our opinion, one of these programs, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, or LIHEAP, administered by the Mayor's Office of Human Services, did not comply with the requirements applicable to the LIHEAP program. In our finding, we tested client eligibility with a sample of 114 clients. The amount of benefits paid to these 114 clients totaled $69,214. A review of the sample determined that 22 of the findings were not provided to us by MOHS. The benefit payments represented by these 22 missing folders amounted to $13,645, which we have to question this amount. For the 92 remaining folders that we did review, with benefit payments totaling $55,569, we noted widespread and pervasive errors and omissions in many of them. We found that there were 261 separate instances of errors or omissions and documented 14 types of errors in these folders. Those with the most occurrences included 23 instances of agency forms that were not signed by the agency worker, 81 instances of database information that did not agree with the folder data, and 54 instances in which the certification section of the energy assistance application was missing key information and signatures. Based on these foregoing issues, we questioned an additional $15,871 because the benefits amounts paid were not based on incorrect or missing data in certain client folders and accordingly should not have been made. Due to the significant number of errors found, including the above total of $29,516 in question cost and the weak controls over record keeping, we projected likely question costs to the total population of the clients. Based on the state database of city clients, there were 27,618 clients in the city program. Our analysis of question costs, the sample selected, and the total population of clients resulted in a projection of likely question costs of $5.5 million. We also note that the system in place for determining benefits during our audit exhibited material internal control weaknesses, which, if not corrected, could lead to future question client payments. We recommend that MOHS resolve the known question cost of $29,516 to the satisfaction of the grantor, which is the United States Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS. We also recommend that the likely question cost of $5.5 million be resolved in accordance with the determination of HHS. We further recommend that MOHS institute internal control procedures such that future energy assistance applications are properly processed and completed, benefits awarded are accurately calculated, and awards are made to only qualified individuals. Additionally, while performing tests of payroll costs, we noted that payroll costs totaling $36,920 for an employee that was not part of the LIHEAP program were improperly charged to its accounts. Accordingly, we are questioning these costs of $36,920. We recommend that MOHS ensure that only appropriate grant employees are charged to LIHEAP accounts. We also recommend that MOHS prepare a correcting journal entry to credit LIHEAP and charge the appropriate program account for the $36,920 in question costs. In their response, MOHS provided detailed steps to resolve this finding and stated that it would work with the Maryland Department of Human Resources, who's the pass-through from HHS to the city, regarding the question cost. And they had an anticipation completion date of June 2017. Also, in our opinion, the city did comply in all material respects with the requirements of the other 14 major programs for fiscal year 15. The report contains 17 other findings, and as in past years, some of the federal programs continue to have problems in reconciling grant financial reports to the city's accounting records, submitting grant financial reports in a timely manner, and providing adequate supporting documentation. As required, the city's summary schedule of prior audit findings and corrective action plans for both current and prior findings are included in that report.
Mr. McCarthy, is this similar to the issue we had a while back?
Yeah, this is the third straight year for the same issue. Basically.
Same issue, okay, and nothing has been corrected?
Not yet, no, sir.
Well, this is 2015.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah,
13, 14, and 15.
Yeah, we had an issue with the same problem. Madam Controller?
Yeah. Okay, so as you said, this is the third consecutive year for this finding, and the Mayor's Office of Human Services said that it would be corrected by the end of fiscal 17. So my question is, will it be completed?
Is someone here from MOHS? I don't know.
Maybe that's why they.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Mr. President, Madam Comptroller. I'm Terry Hickey, the Director of the Mayor's Office of Human Services. We've got our program team that represents Sly Heap and our finance office here as well. Fiscal year 15 was the first year that MOHS took possession of this program from DHCD. We've been working diligently to clean up the issues that were brought about in the audit and have taken appropriate steps to do so. And happy to answer specific questions, if you will.
So in your response, you said that these findings will be resolved as of June 30th, 2017.
Correct.
And it will be?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, we don't want you to come back and the auditor tell us it haven't been done. Okay?
Understood.
All right, because we're going to start putting penalties in place for agencies that's not following the proper procedures,
Absolutely.
because it costs the city in the long run,
Yeah, millions.
okay?
Well, let me just say that one, there's a new team in place, and we don't expect to see the same thing that that you all have seen for the last 3 years. I know you probably have some of those same people inside of your agency, so I'm hoping that this review and this notification doesn't lay on deaf ears, and that we really do go about the business of fixing it. Because as I've always said, I mean, we're going to be transparent, and when we make mistakes, the public is going to know. And these are funds that affect people's lives.
Very much.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. The audit has been noted. There have been no more business before the board. We will recess until bid opening at 12 noon.
Okay. Good afternoon. The Board of Trustees is now in session for the receiving and opening the bids. There are no addendum today. 3 seconds. Okay. TR 17020, utility locating test holes and boring for engineering projects citywide. A bid bond is required if the amount is over $100,000. KCI Technologies, Inc., with a bid bond. $299,730.
Refer this bid to the Department of Transportation for tabulation and report.
There being no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.